Hey, my feel good friend, and welcome back to the Feel Good Social podcast, where we empower entrepreneurs to show up online authentically for your brand without wasting your precious time. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm so excited to chat about today's topic because it is something that I fully believe in. I practice every week. We are talking about Instagram stories and how you can share behind the scenes content for your brand that connects with your ideal customers and helps to boost your know, like, and trust factor as a brand so that you can both low key and high key, I don't know if that's a word, but I'm using it, sell more to your customers without feeling overly salesy. Instagram stories is one of those things that I love probably the most about Instagram, because I just feel like it is one of those ways that we can really break through the barrier that you feel as a brand and genuinely connect with your people, which truly just hits home for me and lights me up as a business owner myself. So today I'm going to be sharing how you can do this in the most effective and strategic and authentic way for your brand, as well as giving a few examples of different types of content that you can share on Instagram yourself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. Hey friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. All right, my friend. So as per usual, I feel like with the Feel Good Social podcast, before I dive into all the deep nitty gritty tips about how you can share Instagram stories for your brand to connect with your ideal customers in the best way, I do have to just tell you a little bit about what's going on with my life right now. Number one, we're still in the new house. It's awesome. I'm loving it so much. Number two, usually we have 3 dogs in this household. Yep, my husband and I actually have 3 fur dogs, Stan, Willie, and Tarkin, that are our own. However, Brett's parents are on vacation right now, so they have left one of their dogs with us, actually. So now we have 4 dogs in this household, 3 of which are in this room with me as I am recording this podcast. So let's all cross our fingers that they stay fairly quiet and good boys and they don't make a ruckus or anything like that. But I hope that you're having a good day wherever the heck you are and enjoying your 4th of July, because that's when this episode is coming out. So I hope you're having a good barbecue, and maybe you can just enjoy this episode whenever you have a break, or if you're going on a walk, or you just need a little alone time. Hopefully that's when you get a chance to listen to this episode. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into all of the tips when it comes to how to show up on Instagram stories for your brand in the best, most genuine, most strategic, most low-key, salesy way. So what the heck is behind the scenes content? Real quick, if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, it's basically like sharing content that's like a peek behind the curtain into your business. It's the content that you may not always share in a regular post that's going to be sticking around forever, that may be someone's first wave hello to your business. The behind the scenes content is more casual. It's more like bringing your customers into the back end of your business and giving them a sneak peek into your business's personality, your processes, what you're currently working on, giving them little sneak peeks of that and whatnot. And they're especially awesome to share on Instagram stories because stories only last for 24 hours. So it's kind of one of those like exclusive, fun little clubs that people feel like they're on the inside of your business. They feel a little bit more connected. They feel more like you're sharing stuff that not everyone gets to see all the time. And the casualness of it, the authenticity, the transparency of it, it really helps to just drive deeper connection with your customers in that way as well. Okay, so how do we do this? The first thing you want to do is determine your purpose think about your goals when it comes to sharing personal behind the scenes content to your Instagram stories. What do you want to get out of sharing this type of content? Maybe you want to make your brand feel more relatable and likable and trustworthy to your ideal customer, right? I don't know if you've heard about it, but there's this thing in marketing called the know, like, and trust factor. And it's basically creating a brand that your ideal customers feel like they know, feel like they like, and feel like they trust, because ultimately that makes them want to buy from your brand over all the other brands out there. They are going between the Joe Schmo brand that they don't know anything about, that feels kind of bro-y, and you have a similar brand over here, and your ideal customers feel like they like your brand, they trust your brand. It'll make them want to choose your brand over that Joe Schmo brand who we can't even remember his name, right? Basically, Instagram stories can help you do that because of the way you are sharing this content, because of the type of content that you're sharing. So thinking about that goal of boosting your know, like, and trust factor is a great reason and a great goal to share Instagram stories. They're also awesome for getting to know your customers better. This is one of my favorite ways to use Instagram stories, is to not make it as much about me and make it about my customers. Firstly, just getting to know them, their personality, their lifestyle, all that different stuff. I love asking my people on Instagram stories with polls or whatnot, how your week is kicking off. Are you getting shit done, or are you slow moving, And it just kind of gives me insight into how generally my people are feeling that week, and insight into how I can show up and speak to them in a way that's going to be most helpful, right? So stories are great for that. And that's a great goal to keep in the back of your mind as you're thinking about posting them. Another goal is to basically low-key sell to your ideal customers. You can totally do this through Instagram stories, right? By sharing just behind the scenes into what you're working on right now, sharing your processes, planting a little seed into your people's brains, being like, oh, she does that? Oh, that's how she does that? Ooh, I want that, right? That is such a good low-key way to sell. And then there's also the in-your-face selling that you can totally do every once in a while on Instagram stories as well, especially if it's like an exclusive offer or something like that. I only have one spot left in this. Hit me up if you want it, kind of thing. You can totally sell both in the low-key and the high-key way on Instagram stories, and it's awesome. So those are 3 really great goals for why you should be posting behind-the-scenes personal content on your Instagram stories. You really do want to also not just think about your own goals, but think about your audience as you are sharing your stories. No matter what, if you're writing a caption, if you're writing an email, if you're just showing up and talking to one of your ideal customers, remember who you are talking to. Okay. I always like to use the example, I'm not going to talk to you, my Feel Good Social Podcast listener, in the same way that I would talk to my husband, Brett. If I was sharing a story about rock climbing to my husband, Brett, I would be using really like technical terms. I would probably be focusing on how the route went, or like how to do this move there or that move there. If I am sharing a story about rock climbing to you, my Feel Good Social listener, I don't know if you like rock climbing. Like maybe you do. And if you do, awesome. Then we could probably go down a different rabbit hole with that conversation. But in general, talking to my Feel Good Social people, I am going to be sharing a story about rock climbing and comparing it to something that I know that you can relate to, such as business, entrepreneurship, anything like that, right? So if I was sharing a story about rock climbing to you, I would probably say, oh man, it's so scary. But once I get through the scary part, I feel more confident. And sometimes I feel like that happens in business as well. Blah, 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 like whatever that would look like. I also wouldn't talk to you the same way I would talk to my dog. I'm not going to tell you to drop the stick and go sit or whatever it looks like, right? So just whatever this comes to your Instagram stories, remember to keep your ideal customers in mind, okay? Sure, you can share your morning coffee. Sure, you can share like little snippets of behind the scenes of your workday and your personal life. I don't think that there's a limit to what you can share and can't share necessarily. I mean, there's always a limit, but you just want to remember who you're speaking to so that you can cater the way you share it. And then also make sure that you are aligning the content that you're sharing with your brand values and messaging. while this is very authentic content that we're sharing, while this is very transparent content that we're sharing on Instagram stories, we still not only want to remember the context in which we are sharing it with our ideal customers, but we do want to make sure that it is in alignment with our brand and our message and our values, because that is so important when it comes to that trust factor. That's where you may not want to go like air your dirty laundry out on your Instagram stories, right? They do only last for 24 hours. So if you have done that, it's okay. No one is going to remember and it will have disappeared after 24 hours. But you still don't want to go like ranting about a client, something that has happened in your life that's triggered you that doesn't really align or make sense with your ideal customers or align with your brand. Like save that for your personal stories or go on a run or something, you want to be conscious of that for sure. Okay, so now that we have thought about the goals behind posting to our Instagram stories, let's go ahead and talk about how you can choose relevant content to share on your Instagram stories. So there are a lot of things going on in my life all day, every day. And I'm not necessarily going to share a picture of every meal that I'm eating on my brand's Instagram story, right? The mundane things that are happening in my life that don't necessarily have anything to do with my ideal customers, I might share them sporadically, right? Like I'll share a photo of my coffee every once in a while. I mean, I feel like coffee is an entrepreneur thing. If Brett and I make just an awesome dinner, I will totally share a picture of that because that can be relatable every once in a while. But we don't want to always be sharing that because it's not really relevant. If your ideal customers are like, I don't really care about this, you probably don't want to be sharing it all the time, right? So make sure that you're always thinking about who you are sharing it with and how you are sharing it. Okay, so just a few types of behind the scenes content that you could share are sneak peeks of upcoming projects or products, a day in the life glimpse or multiple day in the life glimpses of things. I love to do this all the time, especially if like Willie is sitting on my chair with me or something. Willie is our very adorable puppy who's like a year old. And so I'll say, my assistant is assisting me today or whatever that looks like. Like just cute little relatable moments like that are very good to mix in with your Instagram stories content on a daily basis for sure. Other types of content you could share are behind the scenes of your creative process, right? So I will do this in multiple ways where I will share how I do a certain thing that I do, right? Like if I'm cleaning up one of my clients' captions, I'll say, here's how it started. And then here is what I did to make it look better, right? I also do this with branding projects that I have. I'll say, okay, today we are creating a brand vibe kit for this person. Let's take you through my process of doing this and show you how I do this. So much fun. Some other things that you could share are failures and lessons that you've learned. This is kind of one of those topics that a lot of entrepreneurs, it makes them cringe or like feel a little nervous about, right? Is to share times when you made mistakes and learned big lessons. And Instagram stories are a really great way to practice doing that because they're so just casual and they only last for 24 hours. So it's a little bit less scary for sure. You can also share recommendations and highlight other people. I love doing this every day, sharing like other people's posts to my Instagram story that I think that I found really helpful or that I just want to promote them to my audience. And you can also interact with and learn more about your audience on Instagram stories by sharing polls and whatnot, which we will get to in just a little bit. But I do want to say that I'm actually going to record a separate mini-sode for this week for the podcast. It's going to come out this Thursday. It's going to be quick. Hopefully I can keep it to like I try to get them to be like 12 minutes. Hopefully I can keep it to like that, but it might end up being 20 minutes. But it's coming out on Thursday and I'm going to dive deeper and share more specific examples of these 6 different types of content that you can share to your Instagram stories. So if you want more examples and concrete tips for these different types of content that I just shared with you, definitely come back to the podcast this Thursday. Check out the mini-sode because I will be expanding on that and sharing specific examples of how you can share all that different type of stuff on your Instagram stories. Okay, so come back to the podcast for that. But for now, let's go ahead and keep diving into the specific strategy behind sharing to Instagram stories for your brand. So when it comes to choosing the right content, the right types of things to share to your stories, the best thing you can do is just keep posting and keep experimenting with different things. Remember, they only last for 24 hours. And so they are a great place to, if you're like questioning, should I post this? Go ahead and post it. And then you can see, oh, does my audience resonate with this? Or did I not get a lot of engagement with that? And I love experimenting with them in this way because then if I post something and all of a sudden I get a lot of responses and people are very interested or asking questions or interacting with me in some way, then maybe I turn that into more concrete content down the road, right? Then maybe if it's a topic that I've only shared to my Instagram story so far, I create a reel about it or just a regular Instagram post about it next week or something like that. So experiment with lots of different things. And if you're ever asking, should I post this? Just post it. Because if it flops, oh well, it was only up there for 24 hours anyway, right? And then you should also share a variety of content to keep it engaging. I kind of throughout my day go through a few different types of content that I'll share to my stories because people can get bored with one thing and sometimes you need to break it up with like a little bit of something else. So for example, I will usually start out my Instagram stories day with some sort of like poll or something interesting or something super relatable, like a photo of the mountain with the sun coming up or a photo of my dog or just a poll saying like, hey, how's your guys' day starting? To keep it engaging with that first little story. Then often I will go through a few stories that kind of show behind the scenes of me working, right? That's like showing what I'm working on today, giving a little sneak peeks into that, or showing a little bit of my process and whatnot. But those types of stories can get a little bit boring, right? If you're just like continually posting that, which I'm raising my hand over here. I've definitely gone off the rails and posted tons of similar looking stories back to back. And I'm like, oh gosh, people are probably getting kind of bored and annoyed with this, but I can't stop myself. But try to reel that in and or like cut in between those types of posts with other type of relatable content, right? So for me, I'll usually share, this is what I'm working on today. Here's like step 1, here's step 2. Oh, look, Willie, my cute puppy is sitting beside me. Here's a shot of Willie, okay, let's go back to working. Oh, maybe I'll do a selfie after a few more of that. People just like photos of you. So try to post selfies intermittently in between all those things, and that'll keep your engagement up throughout the day for sure. But try to post a variety of different types of stories, talking about different types of things to keep your entire day of stories engaging, making people want to come back for more, making people curious, and all that jazz. Okay, another thing that you should definitely be keeping in mind when you are sharing to Instagram stories are the interactive features and different types of tools that you can use and the different types of media content that you can share to stories. So first things first, Instagram has awesome interactive features and stickers that you can share along with your story, right? So I've already talked about a few of them. We have the polls, which I love because they are so easy to respond to. So you can get a lot of engagement on your stories and they're really great for learning more and getting more insight into your audience, right? There are different types of things you can also share. Question boxes, although I will say that question boxes don't get as great of engagement as polls often. There's a quiz feature, I think, which can be kind of fun. There's lots of different interactive features that you can use. Polls are my favorite. And I will say, remember to try to keep them as simple and easy to use as possible. Try to make the question and the answers very, very straightforward and simple. And try to kind of go back and forth between very easy questions to answer, such as like, how many cups of coffee do you like to drink in the morning, right? That's one that like everyone will immediately understand what you're saying. It's easy to answer, right? You can ask like, what do you struggle with the most? Or what do you think is the most important thing to focus on in your business? However, those types of questions aren't quite as fun. They're like a little bit more boring for people to answer. So people don't really respond to those ones as much as they do to the easy peasy coffee question. Same thing with the question boxes. I've seen people ask kind of open-ended questions where it's like, what are you struggling with the most when it comes to blah, blah, blah? Or tell me a story of blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that is going to take a much longer response than the question box can call for, right? When you use the question box, try to keep it very simple and try to give your audience the opportunity to answer with a single word or up to like maybe 5 words, not even a full sentence. That's the best way to use the question box for sure. Try to use those interactive features as much as possible because one, interacting with the features on your stories can actually help to promote your stories to more of your audience, which is awesome. 2, people really feel like they like to interact with you and answer those questions. They feel like they are a part of your stories when you use those features, when they can interact with you, and they feel like they're more a part of the whole thing, right? And then also, like I've already mentioned, interactive features are really, really great for gaining insight into your audience so that you can learn more about them and that you can understand more about them and just what to talk about, how they're feeling this week, what their personality and lifestyle is. The more you can understand your customers, the better you'll be able to show up for them and sell to them down the road, right? Okay, so definitely use interactive features. Also, totally recommend sharing quote unquote behind the scenes photos and videos. And by that, I mean very casual, very unedited for the most part. Like, you don't need to be sharing your professionally done brand photo shoot photos on your Instagram stories. Like, that's for your Instagram feed posts, your Instagram grid, your website. Instagram stories, just snap photos, their cell phone shots or videos. And you can totally use the filters that Instagram has within its app. That's wonderful if you want to use those, or you don't have to. But your Instagram stories are for casual, unedited, real feeling content. Okay. That's what people are attracted to. And that's how your Instagram stories will be the most powerful. I promise. And to that point, the next thing I have written on my notes here is to be as authentic and transparent as you can, right? And this is just kind of going off the point I was just talking about. Oh man, people freaking love when brands can be real with them. I always joke about phones having 4D technology because people can smell the bullshit through their screens when it comes to your brand's content. So, like, be vulnerable, be real, be transparent, all those things. And that's the way that you're going to drive deeper connection with your audience. That's why they're great for sharing your mistakes, your failures. People are expecting you to just be real. And if you don't, then they'll think something's up and a little fishy. If you don't show up in an authentic way, that might actually work against you, right? So keep it authentic, keep it real, keep it true to yourself, your brand, and speak to your ideal customers. And that is the best way to go. Okay, so the final thing that I want to really drive home for you is to engage with your audience. Instagram stories are not just for you showing up and putting content out into the world, right? No, no, no. Instagram stories are for you showing up and sharing behind the scenes, genuine stuff with your people and engaging with them back and forth, having two-way conversations with them in a genuine way. So you can totally use Instagram polls. You can use all those interactive features, yada, yada, yada. Use them. It's awesome. But if someone replies to your story, reply back to them. Okay. So Instagram stories makes it super, super easy for people to start a conversation with you, a one-on-one conversation with you, because whenever anyone reacts to your Instagram stories or responds with a comment to your Instagram stories, that turns into a one-on-one message, a direct message. And you don't want to leave your people hanging. If they took the time to reply to your Instagram stories, reply back to them, my friend, because that is how you get those conversations started. And those conversations are so freaking valuable. And you don't want to discourage them from responding, right? You don't want to leave them hanging. You want to make them feel nurtured and like you see them and hear them and like they matter, because that is ultimately how you develop that know, like, and trust factor. And that is ultimately how you start and cultivate those conversations that turn into sales down the line. So engage with your people. That is how you can turn your Instagram stories into sales that don't feel sleazy. So those are my best tips and strategy for how to use Instagram stories to share behind the scenes content for your brand in an authentic way. And I hope that you found something in this episode helpful. If you did, make sure that you share it to your Instagram stories. Hey, and tag me at Feel Good Social. So when you go into your Instagram stories, you're going to have to hit at Feel Good Social and tag me so that I can see it, and I will reshare your story and I'll give you a follow and I'll say, hey, thank you so much for this. And we can connect over there. Okay. And also, like I said before, I am putting out a mini-sode this week that is kind of expanding on those 6 different content ideas for Instagram stories so that you don't have to open up your Instagram app and be like, oh, wait, I know Kinsey said to share authentically, but what the heck am I supposed to share? No, come back on Thursday, listen to the mini-sode. I got you covered, my friend. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.